partner organizations, bilateral or multilateral organization. Now my screen, okay, next slide. Yeah, I'm very happy that you're doing that because my keyboard is not working properly well. The thing is that we were thinking how to develop and how to work together. And we found out the 5 regional commissions and the 3 global entities all together that we should structure this project according to 6 work streams. 2 of these work streams are cross-cutting work streams, and the 4 other work streams are statistical domain-oriented work streams. So the first one are about governance, so data governance, coordination, data stewardship across the National Statistical System, but also beyond to reach out to the data community. The second one is general and about innovation and cover all aspects of innovative data sources and technology, such as web scraping, citizen data, geospatial information, etc. And then after that, we have the statistical domain. So actually these domains that would benefit from these cross-cutting work streams and that we found important in the context of COVID-19, but also in the context of possible, I hope not, similar crisis or disaster-related situations. So the first one is climate change and disaster-related statistics. That is co-facilitated by ESCAP and UNEP, and you will hear more about that. We have monitoring economic disparities, which is co-facilitated by ECLAC and ESCWA. We have measuring gender and social discrimination, that is co-facilitated by ESCAP and UNODC. And the last one is assessing the impact of the economy on the environment. And this one is co-facilitated by UNODC and UNEP. So this project is not only structured around 6 work streams, we will have also so-called 2 segments. The first segment, and we are exactly in that segment at that moment, is to work on sub-regional, regional, and interregional events and activities, and at the same time to develop and translate also, and this is requested, methodological guidelines, tools, learning material, e-learning, etc. This segment has started recently and will last until 2025. Now, along this segment, we will have a second one that will be targeting 15 countries around the world. And this segment will start, of course, with identifying these 15 target countries. And one point that is important is that for the 15 target countries, we will not have only one entity or only one work stream that will be implemented for these countries, but we will try to deliver as much as possible as one. And then, of course, also for this segment, we will then assist the countries by developing a specific roadmap with a clear indicator of achievement and then deploy our assistance. So this is how this project is structured. I know it's a bit short with 2 slides to explain all that, but I know that my colleagues will complement work stream by work stream how we are working all together in this endeavor, the UN Development Account 14th Tranche, Resilient and Agile NSS. Back to you, Rike.
Thank you so much, Gabriel, and thanks for this, well, very brief but very succinct and clear overview of this project. As you've also mentioned here, I mentioned it also in my welcome, it is rather complex, and we could certainly have a full seminar here to try to do all the ins and outs of this project. But we are here to really give everyone a bit of a taste and a gist, and also for all of you to know, where to go and who to ask if you want more information on this project. So we'll continue now with some brief insights on the plans for Asia and the Pacific on each of these work streams. And I have the pleasure of being ESCAP's coordinator of the first work stream. So I'm handing over the floor here to myself for a couple of minutes to say a little bit about our initial thinking and activities in the work stream 1.1, which is on data governance. And the aim of this work stream is to modernize and strengthen the legal framework, data governance, and coordination mechanisms within and beyond national statistical systems. It is a work stream that's co-facilitated by UNSD and ECE, and the co-facilitator at UNSD is actually Gabriel, so it's very good to have you here. Now, this work stream is really this cross-cutting institutional aspects of statistical systems. So in addition to what I've just mentioned, topics to be picked up here could be data stewardship, quality management, communication, user-producer dialogues, partnerships, open data, etc., etc. Now for Asia and the Pacific, we have decided to focus rather specifically and directly on data governance, and this is in direct continuation to a decision that was made by chief statisticians in Asia and the Pacific last year, when they came together at ESCAP's Committee on Statistics, and they agreed to make sure that data governance really features more prominently in regional activities going forward. So it's been decided that this project will be a vehicle for implementing the decisions they took on this. There are several activities going on in this space, both nationally and globally, and we'll try to compile current national practices for data governance into a compendium that can both contribute to facilitating more discussion regionally and nationally, but also contribute to further development on this kind of guidance for data governance that could feature also in global work and global guidance going forward. We plan to compile this compendium over the coming months, and then invite for an expert review meeting in Bangkok in September this year. For the second segment of the project, just referring back to what Gabriel mentioned, where the focus will be on a few selected target countries, we expect and very much hope that data governance will feature here. We are very focused on making sure that country priorities really are the main determinants for this. But what I expect is that we will have activities to improve data governance, but linked to one or more of the domain focused work streams that you'll all hear a little bit more about over the next 30 minutes or so. So with that, these are our planned activities so far for this first work stream. And I will hand it over to my colleague Afsane to say a little bit about workstream 1.2, which is on innovation. So Afsane, the next 4 minutes are all yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Rike. The next work stream is workstream 1.2 on innovative data sources, methodologies, processes, and dissemination. And the aim is to improve the resilience and agility of national statistical systems to meet COVID-19 data needs to recover better. Activities under this work stream assist countries in utilizing innovative approaches in their traditional household surveys and censuses, including the use of admin data. And currently, our activities in Asia and Pacific is focused on census. And the leading entity for this work stream is UNSD with ECE, ECA, and ESCAP as co-implementing entities. The activities planned under this work stream, as you can see, and the first segment, we will have a training workshop on transition to register-based approaches for population and housing censuses, which will be in Turkey, Ankara in June 2023, and compilation of case studies to be added to the handbook on register-based population and housing census, which has been developed by UNSD in 2022. Additionally, we have already drafted a tool for assessing readiness of countries to use administrative data for producing census data. This tool will be, prior to the workshop, will be shared with the countries, participating countries to complete. And during the workshop, the tool will be discussed, and based on the feedback we receive from the countries, the tool will be polished and improved for the use by the other countries. As the second segment, during the workshop, we will identify a number of target countries for assisting them with their transition to register-based approaches for population and housing censuses. And maybe I can just briefly mention a bit about the workshop, that this workshop will be jointly organized by ESCAP, UNSD, ECE, SIAP, UNFPA, ECO, CESRIC, and Turkstat. And we will cover 13 target countries. Most of them are from Asia and Pacific, and 2 of them are from ECE region. And 6 of these countries are from DA14 beneficiary countries. And the workshop aims to strengthen the capacity on how to better use admin data to support census, which is not necessarily conducting a fully register-based census. And the workshop, in addition to lectures, country presentation, discussions, and success stories, includes a study visit to Turkstat, which is quite advanced in utilizing admin data for the censuses. I think that's all for now. I will be glad to answer the questions if there are any later. So back to you, Rike.
Thank you so much, Afsane. And we have our first little intermezzo here in the cafe. You've now heard an overview of the project and also some of the immediate activities for Asia and the Pacific of these 2 cross-cutting work streams, which are which focus on innovation and governance. So any questions are very welcome. I'm not seeing any in the chat right now, and I'm not seeing any raised hands. We received 1 question as part of the registration process for this cafe, and I'll just read that out and ask if maybe either Gabriel or Afsane, either of you would want to reflect a little bit on that. The question we received was, how can we better engage and collaborate with youth and women in order for this type of global statistics development initiative to be more resilient? I don't know if any of you have any thoughts to share on this one. Gabriel, any thoughts from your end?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good question, because we tend, in general, with our project to speak to the statisticians, right, or to address directly to the statistician. And I think this is an important element when we say resilient and agile national statistical systems. It means that we have, and that's number 1, right, our users that are at the core of our activities, and it will be important throughout this project to enlarge actually our audience, and also to speak with the different community or users communities that have been facing this challenge, this COVID-19 challenge, and to look with them what are the data and the statistics that they would need in order to better recover. I think the regional level, but in particular the national level, so the second segment, when we will work with countries, will help us at country level to discuss and to analyze, I mean, their request and to see how we can be more resilient and more agile together. In general, of course, in terms of governance, and I stop with that, it's very important that in every country there are mechanisms and tools that allows the statistical office and other data producers to be constantly in contact with these communities that we mentioned just now in order to be able to provide the right data.
Yeah, thanks very much, Gabriel. And indeed, one of the things we could use this project for is to push even more for this learning that we are hearing from several countries during COVID, to really get in and focus more on understanding and then responding to user demands. Afsaneh, do you want to add a reflection?
Actually, I think that Gabriel perfectly covered everything. And just mentioning that during the COVID, many countries had to postpone their censuses because of the data collection mode that they had been using. So we understood that there are limitations with the traditional data collection methods, and maybe that's why that NSOs are now more interested to use other methods which will work during the such disruption events. So maybe using the administrative data and other data sources can help with that. One of the data sources that is included in this work stream is actually community-generated data. In our activities in Asia-Pacific, which is focused on census, we are not touching on that, but maybe other regions are working on it, and that will help with improving the resilience. That's all.
Yeah, excellent point, Afsaneh. I think we are seeing a lot of innovation, which to some extent is driven by the challenges that we all face during the pandemic. So yeah, thanks so much. Thanks Afsaneh. Thanks, Gabriel. And it's time to move to the second segment of today's Stats Café, where we'll hear a little bit more about these more domain-focused elements of the project. We will hear about 4 different work streams. The first one is a work stream that focuses on climate change and disaster-related statistics. And for this one, I'm pleased to invite another colleague, Richard, to give us an introduction to that. Richard, there you are. Great. I'll hand it over to you for the next 4 minutes or so, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Ricky. So kind of this work stream, as mentioned, really aims to strengthen national capacities and increase the availability and policy use of climate change and disaster-related statistics and indicators. The work stream is being organised, co-organised by ourselves here in ESCAP and our colleagues in UNEP, the United Nations Environment Programme. As with the cross-cutting work streams that were described earlier, kind of activities under this work stream are divided into 2 segments. And the first of these will focus on enhancing awareness and understanding of climate change and disaster-related statistics in beneficiary countries and beyond through various regional and interregional activities. So as part of these activities, we're going to be holding 2 sets of global webinars, the first of which will take place in a few weeks' time, and we'll focus on introducing relevant international statistical frameworks and guidelines, as well as sharing national experiences of their implementation. This webinar is being repeated on different days in different time zones to try and make sure that it fits in as many people's working days as possible. So the one that's aimed at countries from Asia and the Pacific will be taking place on the 3rd and 4th of May. So in addition to these webinars, we're going to be developing and testing a number of different tools through this work stream. One of these is a diagnostic tool for strategic planning on the implementation of climate change statistics. And this is really, the aim of this tool is to support producers of statistics in identifying areas to prioritize, taking into account the needs of policy and decision makers. And colleagues in UNEP are also going to be leading the development of improved data collection tools for selected climate change indicators, including those related to national integrated coastal zone management and the treatment of food waste. Then finally, in this first segment, we're going to be holding a kind of workshop here in Bangkok on the 8th of June, alongside the expert forum on disaster-related statistics. This is something that we're going to be doing in conjunction with Workstream 2.4, kind of which my colleague Io is going to be talking about in a moment. And this workshop really focus on assessing challenges, needs and opportunities in advancing climate change and disaster-related statistics to kind of support risk-informed development. I won't say too much about the second segment yet. As been mentioned, it's really going to be next year that activities in that phase will kick off. But just to note that in this work stream, we're going to be working with a selected number of target countries to increase national capacity to be able to respond to convert the was really a growing demand for statistics related to climate change and disaster. So that's from me. So I'll pass back to you, Ricky. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks very much, Richard. And I just plugged in there in the chat a link to the expert forum, which will take place in conjunction with the workshop you just mentioned. That will be held on 8th of June. So we certainly hope that we'll see a lot of you who are tuning into this Stats Cafe, either virtually or in person in Bangkok in early June there. Thanks a lot, Richard, and let's move immediately on to the next work stream, which is on monitoring economic disparities. And I'll hand over to yet another colleague, Alec. Alec, you have a full 4 minutes all to yourself there. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Ricky, and welcome colleagues to this webinar. So under Workstream 2.2, which is got to do with monitoring economic disparities. So this workstream is facilitated or led rather by our colleagues in ECLAC and ESCAP, with a main focus on how we can support economic indicators, particularly with more emphasis on price statistics. The gist of this work stream is to provide support in terms of how policymakers can use statistical data for measures such as poverty measures, particularly using purchasing power parities that are very critical in reducing estimates of poverty measures that are comparable globally. So in the ECLAC and ESCAP region, part of this work stream will actually focus on price collection for the purchasing power parities, and with a long-term focus on how they contribute to the overall SDGs. So the first phase of the activities has involved 2 back-to-back webinars organized by our colleagues in ECLAC and ESCWA on price statistics, focusing on ICP and CPI. So a few countries shared their experiences, and some of our international partners also shared some of the methods that have actually been developed, particularly during the context of COVID. So there are some specific manuals that our friends in ECE and Eurostat have actually produced to guide countries on how best they can handle price statistics in terms of a pandemic like COVID. Going to the second segment, we intend to conduct a number of regional webinars, including us in the ESCAP region, basically intending on how best countries can produce price statistics given the changing dynamics of prices and different marketing price platforms. So ESCAP will also undertake some specialized webinars on very specific topics that will be geared towards sharing knowledge and expertise on innovative methods that member states can actually adopt or think or consider with respect to the development or compilation of price statistics, and also look at the potential and how they can actually apply it into economic or other related measures that actually transcend beyond the economic statistics domain. So there'll be that element of innovation to connect with some of the projects that are already happening within statistics division of ESCAP. So this is what this work stream is all about in brief. Thank you, Ricky. I'll hand it over back to you.
Thank you so much, Alec. And I think also your presentation here makes it clear that it's a project because we have so many entities all around the world involved. So the management structures really differ from one work stream to another. So I just want to highlight here that just because a work stream is actually co-facilitated by, as in this case, regional commissions for 2 other regions, it doesn't mean that there won't be any activities in Asia and the Pacific. So just as a clarification point, it also illustrates very well one of the points Gabriel mentioned at the very beginning, and that is that in terms of resources, this project is a bit thin on the ground. So for example, for this work stream, even though the second segment is really dedicated to in-country technical assistance, we are trying to play a little bit around with different types of modalities to make sure that as many experts in the national institutions really benefit from the project. So thank you very much, Alec, for that. It's time to move to the next work stream and the next colleague. The next work stream is on measuring gender and social discrimination, and it's my pleasure to hand over to colleague Sharita for that. Sharita, please go ahead.
Thank you, Ricky, and good day, everyone. So this next work stream on measuring gender and social discrimination will focus on gender-based violence in specific. Gender-based violence, as we know, is not just a human rights violation, but a significant public health concern as well. And so in the context of resilience and agility of national statistical systems, why are we bringing in this work stream? So recent research has basically shown that during the lockdown measures introduced to restrict the spread of COVID-19, there was actually an increase in gender-based and domestic violence against women and girls in many circumstances. And in fact, in 2021, while Africa was the region with the highest level of violence relative to the size of its female population, Asia actually recorded the largest absolute number of female intimate partner or family-related killings. So against this background, this work stream seeks to improve the capacity of countries to use innovative methods and technologies to generate timely statistical data on gender-based violence, with a particular focus on gender-related killings of women and girls. Now, this workstream will be co-facilitated by UNODC and ESCAP, and this part of the project will also be implemented by 2 other regional commissions, that is in Africa and the Western Asia regions. So just like the other work streams under this project, there will be 2 segments for this work. In the first segment, we will be enhancing awareness and understanding of beneficiary countries through a regional webinar series, which is actually due to take place next week. And these webinars, which will span over 3 days from the 25th to the 27th of April, will cover insights on data and indicators needed to measure gender-based violence and the use of survey and administrative data for the purpose. The webinars will also introduce the recently developed UNODC UN Women Statistical Framework for measuring gender-related killings of women and girls, or femicide as it is called, which is aligned with the International Classification of Crime for Statistical Purposes and was endorsed actually by the UN Statistical Commission at its session in 2022. Now, this framework actually aims to expand the knowledge base on gender-related killings from within the family to such killings in the public sphere for which quality and comparable data remain quite limited. The webinars will also look into the use of new data sources to measure gender-based violence, such as the use of emergency telephone numbers and hotline data. Now, these webinars are actually open to all countries in the Asia-Pacific region. The main target group for the webinars are agencies which are part of the National Statistical System responsible for the production of data related to gender-based violence. And at the same time, the webinars will also involve national agencies that are data users, including the Ministry of Women and Family Affairs and the Ministry of Justice in countries. Now, just like the other work streams, following this first segment, it is expected that a set of target countries will be selected to participate in the second segment of the project, based on their interest and their data readiness for the project. And a roadmap will be developed collaboratively with these target countries. So the second segment, which is more on the in-country technical assistance, will support the piloting of the femicide framework that I just mentioned, including the development of reports and analytical briefs in target countries. And it will also support pilots around harnessing of new data sources to measure femicide or violence against women, such as use of machine learning modeling for analysis of emergency telephone data or web scraping. And eventually, the project will be closed with a webinar series, a concluding webinar series for target countries to share their experiences and lessons learned from their respective pilots with other countries in the region and beyond. I'll stop with this and hand this back over to Rike. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sharita, for that. And indeed, a lot of serious issues that can potentially be picked up and better measured in this work stream of the project. Let me hand over to the next colleague and the next work stream. And this will be the last but not the least. This is the work stream which is on assessing the impact of economic activities on the environment, to be introduced by my colleague Ayo. Ayo, please go ahead.
Yes, thanks, Rike. And this work stream will focus on assessing the impact of the economy of the environment, and is co-facilitated by UNEP and UNODC, along with implementing partners, all the regional commissions. The workstream aims to improve the ability of the National Statistical System to respond to future crises and increase resilience by understanding the relationships between ecosystems and livelihoods, as well as the impacts of economic activity on land-based, freshwater, and ocean-based ecosystems. As part of this work stream, a series of webinars have been planned in the first segment of the project. The first one was held in March for Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean regions. And coming up this week, from tomorrow actually, Tuesday, 18th of April to Thursday, 20th of April, the team will conduct an interregional webinar for the Asia-Pacific region Europe, and North Africa. This webinar will include discussions on the impact of human activity and natural processes on freshwater and marine ecosystems, the impact of illegal and informal mining on the environment, and domestic material consumption as an indicator of economic pressure on the environment. All sessions will highlight examples from all of the regions, including the Asia-Pacific region. Details of this webinar were circulated earlier, with reminders circulated last week. So we do hope that many of you will be joining. Also, as part of the first segment, there will be a discussion with beneficiary countries about the impact of human activity on greenhouse gas emissions and the link to climate disasters. And this will take place at the workshop my colleagues Richard and Enrique mentioned briefly earlier in Bangkok in the first week of June. And I think Enrique shared some of the details of the forum and the workshop in the chat. From discussions and activities in segment 1 of the work stream, a decision on target countries will be made, where more focused activities will be done. And this work will be to enable and equip countries to use innovative data sources, methods, and technologies to respond to emerging data needs. And this will all facilitate the assessment of the impact of the economy on the environment, especially in times of crises and disasters. And this topic is very aligned with key work and initiatives in global statistics work, big data and data science, including work that ESCAP is planning during the course of this year. With that, I'll hand back over to Enrique.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ayo. And we are seeing here some examples also of linking different parts of this project together, which is part of the design and the intention actually of the project. And this is of course because many of these work streams overlap and touch upon common cross-cutting issues, but also again to try to make implementation as effective as possible in terms of getting as much action and result for the budget that we are all looking at splitting into very small pieces sometimes. So thank you so much, Ayo, for that. It is time for our second intermezzo of this cafe, which means that anyone who is now left with some questions are welcome to either post the question in the chat box or raise your electronic hand. I'll just pause here for 10 seconds for all of you to think or type. Well, we see this seems that we have no questions, which I guess is that's praise to the people who've presented for being very clear and very concise. What I think is also very clear from all the presentations is that what is going on during the course of this year is very much webinars, developing of resource materials to make sure that there is a general awareness of issues, guidelines available for the different aspects of statistics that this project touches upon, but also that we are all facing a difficult task of identifying target countries for this second segment of the project. This is part of the activities that are built into some of the many webinars and activities that will take place this year, as you just heard from several colleagues. This will be an opportunity for all countries participating to indicate their interest, their plans, their priorities. And I'm just seeing a question here, which is very related to what I'm just talking about. This is from Naira. Whether we have pilot countries for the project. Well, the countries that will be in focus in the second segment of the project have yet to be identified. It is such that the project operates with a relatively large list of beneficiary countries in this first segment, and from that group of beneficiary countries, target countries will be identified for the second segment. We still need to go through in our global coordination/management group for this project to find out exactly the process and the criteria for identifying the target countries. So I think that is as close to answering that question, thank you, Naira, that I can get at this point in time. Okay, thank you for your understanding. I'm getting a thanks back. And I'm seeing a hand from Gabriel. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on the beneficiary and target countries, Gabriel? Then please go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much, Rike. No, the question is a good one. Now, what we have to know is that we will try to be as much as possible demand-oriented, right? So it means that it will not be like 1 or 2 countries getting exactly the same assistance from the project. And that's why to call them pilot countries will be a little bit difficult. The idea is that we have at least, if possible, at least 2 entities that were mentioned before out of the 8 supporting a specific countries, and then the country will get also the support in more than 1 work stream. For example, governance and disaster-related statistics, or innovation and disaster-related statistics. But of course, it can be more than that. That's why identifying a country as a pilot country is a little bit difficult, because 2 countries are not the same and will not have the same request. But this is my very, very quick thought and response to that question. Thank you very much, Rike.
Yeah, thanks, Gabriel. And indeed also what's clear from your addition there is that there is quite a lot of flexibility built into this project to make sure that the focus in the countries of the second segment of the project will really fit the priorities of that country. So that is also why we are still figuring out exactly how to go about this. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for that addition, Gabriel. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions, so I think it's time to hand back to Rachel for a few final reflections. Rachel, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. And thank you to all the presenters, because I think that what that really showed is that although this is one project, it's actually the combination of a lot of work from a lot of different people. And as we go forward, that will be the challenge, to make sure that we kind of keep coordinated on all the different work that we are doing. But I think it also just shows as well the huge breadth of different topics that we are trying to cover, which really does as well reflect the fact that we know that National Statistical Systems and National Statistical Offices face a lot of challenges, and we're trying to do what we can to really help to support countries as they move forward. So I don't want to kind of really say too much more, apart from there are lots of opportunities. I will ask my team as well. We will, of course, be in touch with all those different kind of webinars, with all the different activities. And please do join as many of those as you can, and particularly ones that are relevant. Also, please do get in touch if you want to get any more specific information. We're of course always available and happy to talk to you. And we will, be presenting as we go along. I guess there'll be more opportunities as we go through the project to we'll present probably at future stats cafes. You'll probably see us at different events, so don't hesitate to reach out to us, and I'm sure Gabrielle as well. Rike's helpfully put her email there, but you should have all of our emails as well, so please do make sure you kind of keep in touch on the specifics as well. So it's a great opportunity. As with many of these projects, we don't necessarily have masses of money to kind of do this work, but we do have some money, and we are kind of, you know, keen to do what we can to really reach out to countries. So we do want to kind of hear from you as we go forward. Richard, you wanted to come in, if that's okay.
No, no, sorry, kind of hit the wrong button.
That's okay. All right, so it's great to have seen so many of you. We appreciate it is a busy week. And I hope that actually I get to see some of you next week. I know that tomorrow I get the opportunity to travel to Vietnam, so I'm going to see a few people there. But next week, myself, Richard, Io, various colleagues from UN Statistics Division and others from all around the world, we're going to the UN World Data Forum. And again, that's another opportunity for us to kind of learn from each other. So I hope at least some of you will be there in person, and we can see some of you in person. But for those that can't make it in person, there are lots of opportunities as well with that one, in that the sessions will be, many of them will be hybrid, so you can attend as well. So again, a really great opportunity to share with each other. And there's some great presentations I know coming up from people from Asia and Pacific region. So thank you to everyone that's participating in that. And I've completely failed to make a note of what our next Asia-Pacific Stats Café is, but I know that my amazing team are probably going to tell me in the chat bar in just a minute. But please do join us for our next session. There we go. The next one, I thought there was something. Exactly. We're talking about hearing from Nepal and what they're doing on data integration approaches. So that's next week's Stats Cafe. As I said as well, there's lots of opportunities next week to join World Data Forum sessions as well. So there's no shortage of opportunities to hear what's going on in other parts of the world, but also to share what you're doing as well, which is so important. So I would like to say a huge thank you. I'd like to say a massive thank you actually to Gabrielle, because I know that you are traveling, but also I think it's probably the middle of the night or very early hours of the morning in New York. So we really appreciate you staying up extra late, or getting up. I think it's staying up late, isn't it? Yeah, okay, we'll let you go.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
We really appreciate it, because it's so much nicer to actually have you live. So thank you so much. And thank you to all the great speakers as well from across the team. And there's a lot of work that we've got going forward, but we're really looking forward to working with more with you in more depth in the coming year or two. So thank you so much, and see you at the next Stats Cafe or World Data Forum. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Bye.